Hello and welcome to my channel. Here I review movies and television shows. Today's topic is Arcane Season 2. I'm going to do this review in two sections. The first part will focus on the quality and won't have any spoilers, while the second part will focus on exact criticisms I have of the show. I will let you know when the spoiler section starts, so keep a heads up for that. Okay, on to the review. Arcane Season 2 starts a few months after the events of Season 1. The council chamber exploded, several members are dead, and the war between Zahn and Piltover has escalated to a boiling point. The plot focuses on a couple of big storylines that all culminate in a giant showdown. You have Caitlin and Vi trying to track down Jinx. Jinx tries to find a new life in the Undercity. Jace, Echo, and Heimerdinger all investigate Hextech together, and Victor starts a cult. There's also a few things going on in the background with the Medarda family and Singed the Alchemist. Alright, so story-wise, the show started out really strong and then got lost somewhere along the way. It's full of exciting story beats and each of the stories had a lot going for them. Good emotions, strong character development, and a lot of intrigue about what comes next. The problems start about halfway through the season when things start to feel rushed. They start skipping big chunks of time and cutting down important moments until it feels like reading a Cliff Notes version of the story. The stories all get wrapped up in rapid succession so they can start the finale, and none of them end up feeling all that satisfying. They took all of the punch out of it by cutting out all of the little moments that help you connect with the characters and understand their decisions. They also left the ending very open for a lot of different characters. Their fate is completely unknown and the story isn't finished. Given that the creators have said they aren't going to revisit this, it feels incomplete and like a waste of time. They also didn't explain much. They had all these great mysteries swirling about in the show and then didn't give an answer to any of them. I was left with more questions than answers toward the end, and the only thing keeping me interested was all the prior knowledge I had of the lore. For people who aren't fans of the existing lore, very little of what they saw would make any sense. In essence, this season was for longtime fans of League of Legends and no one else. Cast-wise, we see a lot of good performances across the board and a few great performances from the leads. The screen time gets split fairly evenly between them, but the big standouts are Echo, Jace, Jinx, and Victor. Each of them gets their own emotional journey to go on with a roller coaster of emotions for them to ride. Reed Shannon's Echo starts this season looking for answers. As he finds them, he gets a glimpse of what could have been and embraces a world of possibilities. Then he's tasked with taking up a new mantle and brings a resolute strength to the character that makes him an easy favorite for this season. Ella Purnell's Jinx starts at rock bottom and slowly finds the will to live, only to have it ripped away once more. Purnell makes the journey into a heartbreaking affair. As Jinx becomes more friendly, she plays it in a reluctant but adorable way and then makes the fall feel like a true deep dive into despair. She nails the ups and downs and creates a lovable anti-hero. Kevin Alejandro and Harry Lloyd play off each other well this season. Jace starts out looking for a way to save his friend and never really stops. Victor goes down a new path but finds himself losing his humanity along the way. The two of them play out a cat and mouse game between them that ends with an explosive finish. Lloyd nails the cold and lifeless transition that slowly overtakes Victor's personality, while Alejandro turns up the dial on Jace's desperation. In the finale, we get gigantic emotional outbursts from them, and both actors give a strong performance. The rest of the cast has a lot of honorable mentions as well. Haley Steinfeld as Vi, Katie Lung as Caitlin, Brett Tucker as Singed, Tox Olagundoy as Mel, and Ellen Thomas as Ambessa. Each of them gets big moments and a cool character. They just don't get as many opportunities as the four standouts I mentioned. They each had strong character arcs and they played the emotions well. Visually, the story starts off really strong and then takes a dip into the land of strange and incomprehensible. Most of the journey takes place in the fictional cities of Piltover and Zahn, and covers a brewing civil war. The animation work is beautiful, the characters are unique and intricately designed, and the movement is fantastic. They also have all kinds of amazing visual fodder moments for you to enjoy, like big magical fights, impossible architecture, and world-class sights. The problem starts when they introduce the Arcane. It creates these strippy space visuals with rotating objects and bright lights. It's meant to look like a new experience, but often they don't really explain what's going on and the visuals are incomprehensible. It's like looking into a kaleidoscope while someone shines a flashlight in your eye. It's headache-inducing and you just end up confused. They also made quite a few annoying and weird visual decisions that completely brought me out of the show. like how they use slow motion for every single fight, sometimes multiple times in a single sequence, or how the show starts to look like a music video during every montage moment. There were also a lot of fan service moments that dragged on forever. We get it, you really want to animate your characters having sex, but do we really need to see every single detail drawn out for 5 minutes straight? Especially when other more important parts of the stories had their time cut into pieces. Sound-wise, the show knocks it out of the park. The soundtrack is made up of original songs created specifically for the show and scored orchestral tracks. We get a wide variety of bangers from a number of genres. The music always comes in at the right time, perfectly matches the emotion, and even has lyrics relevant to the story. There are moments when the show goes a little bit overboard with the music, almost catering to it with the visuals, but in general, it's quite catchy, entertaining, and it elevates each of the story beats to new heights. Personally, I really enjoyed the first half of the season, but totally lost interest once they started rushing through the storylines and introducing a ton of new concepts and characters. It just felt like mental overload, and the stories didn't hit nearly as hard as they should have. I liked most of the visual journey, but there were a lot of poor decisions that held it back. The soundtrack and the cast did a fantastic job and deserve nothing but praise. The show was entertaining despite the lack of a coherent story. It also was fairly experimental in what they tried to do. It may not have worked all the time, but I do give them credit for trying. As for a rating, I'd give this season an overall score of 7 out of 10. Now, to address a few more focused criticisms I had. There will be spoilers here, so leave now if that's a problem. The show tried way too hard to cram the battle against Ambessa into one episode, and it totally failed to live up to the expectations the rest of the season built. They skipped through so much of the battle that it was hard to even tell what was going on. They then shoehorned in a bunch of character deaths and twists, but they came so fast that I hardly had time to register them before they were moving on to the next big reveal. Like Maddie's betrayal was barely a thing in my mind because she didn't have much screen time in the first place, and she dies so quickly after the reveal that you don't even really care what she did. I also didn't really understand what was happening with Jace and Victor. It seemed like it came down to Victor becoming a god in the end and setting his own defeat into motion, which doesn't make any sense. Why did Jace have to kill those people if he could have just touched the bracelet to Victor's head and shown him the future? Also, if Victor can manipulate events in the past, why doesn't he just stop certain things from happening so he doesn't invent hex tech in the first place? There were just too many unanswered questions that leave the story howling as the wind passes through it. Anyway, I did enjoy the experience up until the ending. Hopefully Riot gives us an Arcane 2.5 to try and tie up some of these loose ends. Thanks for listening to my review, and have a great day.